Now, let's return to this rescue operation or recovery operation underway for the Titan submersible, with the location still believed to be at the wreck of the Titanic. And this update of the regular tapping sounds being heard in the form of what is now believed to be distress signals from where the vessel went missing. Reports, though, also suggesting that safety fears have been raised over the vessel before it went on this latest voyage. According to the authorities, of course, less now than 24 hours of oxygen left on board. But let's speak now to Michael Guillen, who's a former ABC, I think science editor, weren't you, Michael? Indeed, when he went down to travel to that wreck back in 2000, a similar sub, 2.5 miles down, of course, and you hit problems at that time.
Yes, we did, Mark. We started our journey aboard a Russian research vessel, the Akademik Keldysh. We pushed off from Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is just a bit north from St. John's, Newfoundland, where these folks took off. Then we were on station above the Titanic, and then we dove. As you indicated, it took about 2.5 hours to get down there. Everything went well when we were touring the bow. But as you know, and as your viewers probably know, the Titanic, when it sank, broke into two pieces. The bow went straight down. The stern did a somersault and landed on its back. So as we were going from the bow across the debris field towards the stern, my eye caught sight of the propeller. It stood out because it's very shiny compared to the rest of the Titanic, which is very decaying. It's all gray, shades of gray down there, primarily. And then I sensed that our sub was speeding up, which I thought was rather odd. I thought, well, why is our pilot speeding up as we're heading towards the propeller? Later, I learned that we got caught up in a very high-speed underwater current. They do exist down there, believe it or not. And that slammed us right into the blades of this giant propeller. The propeller is much larger than our sub. And so at that point, I knew we were in a crisis. Huge pieces of the Titanic were raining down on us. And then, it was a sense of, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah. And you literally, jammed underneath the propeller with the force of this current that slammed you into it?
Yes, because when the stern turned upside down, the propeller was exposed and the poop deck was above it. So we got caught between the poop deck and the propeller, behind the blades.
Yeah.
And our pilot, who was a former Russian MiG pilot, a man very experienced at dealing with life and death situations and dealing with high pressure situations, we just, my diving buddy and I, we just fell silent because we didn't want to disturb him in any way. We knew pretty quickly that he was the only way we were going to get out, if we were going to get out at all. But at that point, after a half hour, I came to terms with the fact that this was probably going to be the end of the road for me.
And in terms of what goes through your mind at that stage, I guess you're trying not to panic and let, as you say, the person who has control of the craft do what they can. But at what stage do you start then thinking we could really be in trouble here? And what do you do physically and mentally?
Mark, the first thing that when there was the collision and we saw the pieces raining down on us, we knew we were in a crisis, a life-threatening crisis. I didn't panic, but I worried that maybe somebody else in the sub might panic, because we had been prepared by the captain of the ship up top. Situations where people do panic and they do dumb things. So that kind of, I focused my mind on that. And then I started problem solving because I'm a scientist. And I thought, well, for every problem, there is an optimal solution. Yeah. And I ticked off various ways I thought we could be rescued. But then I hit a brick wall. And then I felt an enormous sadness, realizing that I could not get out of here. I'd never see my wife again. I thought, the thought crossed my mind that I would join the people who had lost their lives down here in the Titanic. I thought to myself, wow, I'm going to this is where my body's going to rest for the rest of eternity, alongside these people who had lost their lives in the Titanic. And then after that sadness, something odd happened. Something happened that caused me to experience a peace that I cannot understand, or that is unreasonable in many ways under that circumstance. But I nevertheless reporting to you that I did feel that peace. And then the sub went quiet. And at first, my diving in buddy and I exchanged glances as if something's changed. There's been an inflection in our experience here. I thought, well, maybe the engine just finally gave out because Victor our pilot was trying to jog us out, overexerting the engine. And I thought, well, maybe we're really dead in the water. This is it. I mean, this is the bottom line. But then we had the experience of floating, which we hadn't for quite a long while. And then I dared to ask our pilot one question. I said to him, I said, okay. And then he turned to me and he said, no problem. And he said it in his very thick German accent, so I'll never forget. It was like just yesterday. And of course, the sense of elation, Mark, you can imagine, it was like hitting the lottery 1,000,000 times over. I don't think I've ever been happier in my life, even on my wedding day. And I do love my wife.
Yeah.
But that was just the sense that you escaped death. That you had already resigned yourself. This was going to be the end of it. And then all of a sudden you're reprieved. So I'm feeling a kinship with those folks down there right now. Those 5 souls. I'm just praying for their rescue. But
the fact that there is that there are 5 on board the Titan, several of them, of course, have experience. I think Hamish has been down to the Mariana Trench, which is about as deep as you can go in the oceans. Does this, the problem-solving process, the mental ability to actually try and problem-solve your way out, is that going to be easier with the fact there's 5 of them in there?
No. That's and only one of the many, many complications. I mean, at least when we were stuck down there, our pilot was in constant communication through hydrophone. Because you have to keep in mind that the way you communicate when you're underwater is through hydrophones. It's acoustic. It's not electromagnetic. Radio waves that do not travel well in the ocean. So all day yesterday, I was saying, well, if they had experienced a catastrophic communications failure an hour and 45 minutes into their dive, then they could have started hammering on the sub with the cups or utensils or anything hard. And hydrophones will pick that up. Sound travels extremely well in water, much better than it does in air. And so when I heard late last night that, in fact, they had detected some sounds coming, I got very excited. I thought, wow, this is a ray of hope. But then I think, as a previous guest indicated, that's only the beginning. How in the world? Because by then you might think that they have settled to the bottom. An hour and 45 minutes does not get you to the bottom. So when they had their failure, they hadn't gotten to the bottom. But by now they probably have sunk to the bottom. Otherwise they would have floated to the top. And so how in the world do you get something back up intact from 2.5 miles down? There are very few vessels in the world that can do that. When I went down, only the French and the Russians had vessels that were capable of withstanding that kind of pressure. This Ocean Gate, I don't know much about them. And I know that NASA was involved in the design, but NASA was not, and they made a public statement. They were not involved in testing this or anything like this. The vessel I was in at least was time tested, and it was a serious scientific vessel. This was a vessel made specifically for tourism. And so how do you get, even if you triangulate and locate these people now, based on the sounds that they're generating, how do you get them up, Mark? I don't see how they can do that in time.
And clearly from your experience, I mean, perhaps people weren't aware of these currents even that far down, about 2.5 miles down. So if they are trapped in some kind of debris or wreckage under the Titanic or by the Titanic, you will have to have the physical process of trying to get them out, to pluck them out, to reverse the craft out.
Yeah, that scenario is even more complex than just them sitting at the bottom. Yes, absolutely. That only complicates things exponentially. I mean, we were fortunate. Let's face it, Mark. I'm speaking with you here today just because of the great skill of our pilot. But otherwise, I would be down there right now at the bottom of the ocean. I want to be optimistic. I'm optimistic by nature, but I'm also a realist. I'm a scientist, and I don't want to blow sunshine to your viewers. I mean, this is especially now we're within 24 hours of their ideally losing oxygen. They may have already lost oxygen. The statement from the company was they had at most a certain number of days. That's the maximum. So but the fact that we're hearing sounds does seem to indicate that perhaps there is still life on board, or maybe it's a transponder that's pinging. We don't know. It's a ray of hope, but It's going to be a long road to hoe to get those people back up again, I'm afraid to say.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for bringing us your story. And as you say, obviously our hopes are with the rescue teams still attempting to locate and then hopefully recover and rescue. Thank you very much indeed.